This is really exciting. We're one step closer to making AI-generated life as researchers make the first AI-generated virus that might sound slightly scary, but I'll explain. You might recognize these guys from high school biology. They're bacteriophages, and they're one of my research areas. I study evolution in phages. They modeled their AI generation around a phage that infects E. coli. Then they let the AI design something that could functionally impact E. coli. The AI came up with hundreds of different phages, 16 of which were actually effective. Some of them used mechanisms not in the evolutionary line of that phage at all, so they're totally novel. Mechanisms that E. coli have to overcome the original phage are not effective on these AI-made ones. Now, this might sound like it could go down a dark direction, and yeah, that's possible too, but do understand bacteriophages are much simpler than ones that impact eukaryotes like us. Now, why are we excited for this? There's a problem with getting antibiotics to market, and there's some conditions which are incurable that you would preferably want to be curable. Bacteriophages have always been considered as a potential therapy for bacterial infections, but it's never been terribly effective. After all, bacteria are made to overcome their phages. If you could design one specifically for that bacteria, even more so one that it is very unlikely to overcome because it may overcome ones that it's familiar with. You could design something that could be created quickly that could also knock out infections. Of course, there's a whole lot that it's going to have to go through first. Not kidding, it does have to go through clinical trials, but it's another tool in our tool belt to fight something that mankind has been fighting for thousands of years. This could be the start of a whole new era in antibiotic treatments. Did you know that the very first treatment for syphilis was actually malaria? Yes, they utilized another pathogen that caused a high fever in order to allow the body to knock out the syphilis. So having biological entities interact is not entirely new to medicine. In the situation we currently have, it takes a very long time for treatments to actually get to market. It's extraordinarily expensive and it's not very profitable once it gets there. It's not something that people are going to be using continuously for a long period. We need to come up with new mechanisms to get antibiotics to market, and using AI is one of them, not just for designing phages, but for designing antibiotics that can target resistant microbes. This is an area where AI really excels at, and I think it's an ethical and effective way to use it. There is, of course, a very scary aspect of this is just the start, and what else can people do with AI to design these kinds of biological entities? But being able to create things that are this targeted this quickly, yeah, I could see that going very wrong. So what do you think? Designing viruses a good thing or a bad thing, or somewhere in between? My personal opinion is that I have high hopes for technology, but rarely is it ever used in exclusively good ways. Nefarious. There could be nefarious uses for it. Some next steps will be designing genomes for whole organisms, which is already in the works. Follow, like, subscribe, whatever, if you want more. I'm always talking about this stuff.